Foremost among them was Alasinga Perumal. 3. It was in Madras that he decided to go to the west. And 4. These were the people who were eager to send him to the World Parliament of Religions as the representative of Hinduism. Singaravelu Mudaliar. He saw the realistic values of Christianity and criticized Hinduism. He came to argue with Vivekananda. That day Vivekananda was in exalted spiritual mood and he said openly, "If anyone touches me now, I can mold him in whatever way I wish. Will anybody dare to touch me now?" So this was the 7th thing the Madras people did for him. Under the inspiration of Vivekananda, his disciples in Madras like G. Venkataranga Rao, M.C. Nanjunda Rao, Alasinga of course and others started in 1895 a monthly magazine called Brahmavadin. Later it became the Vedanta Kesari and even Prabuddha Bharata was started in Madras. Hello little friends, welcome back to online story time. As always, we start with a mantra. Om Bhur Bhuvassuva Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om. Today, let us speak about some significant incidents which took place during Vivekananda's stay in Madras, both before he left for America and after his return from America. These incidents show us various aspects of Vivekananda's personality, like his deep regard for his guru and for Hinduism, his loving heart, his sharp intellect, and his inspiring power. Sister Devmata was an American lady who was Vivekananda's admirer. She relates a remarkable incident in her book, Days in an Indian Monastery. She speaks about Dr. Nanjunda Rao, who later became Vivekananda's disciple. One afternoon he went to the Theosophical Society in Adyar to see a friend, and he found there a newly arrived American member of the Theosophical Society. He was clearing out some drawers. On one side lay a pile of things to be burned. Among them, Nanjunda Rao saw that there was a picture of a sadhu. So he picked it up and told the American very sternly, "This is a holy man, you should not throw this on the floor." The American didn't care. He replied, "Oh, no one knows who it is, and we must get rid of some of this clutter." Dr. Nanjunda Rao said, "Let me take the picture then." He carried it home, had it framed, and hung it up with some other pictures of holy men. Later, when Vivekananda came to Madras, Dr. Nanjunda Rao invited him to have dinner at his home. When Vivekananda arrived, he was led to the room where the holy pictures hung. As he waited, Vivekananda walked about looking at the pictures. Suddenly, he stopped before the Adyar picture and went on looking at the picture, spellbound, as if hypnotized. And those with him saw tears gather in his eyes and rolled down on his cheeks. They were very surprised. They inquired in wonder, "What is there in that picture to move you so, Swamiji?" He turned and with deep emotion in his voice, he exclaimed, "It is my Guru, Sri Ramakrishna." Those people were stunned, seeing Vivekananda's depth of emotion for his Guru. Much later, at the end of a lecture in Madras, Vivekananda said about his master Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, "Let me conclude by saying that if in my life I had told one word of truth, it was his and his alone. And if I have told you many things which were not true, not correct, and not beneficial to the human race, it was all mine, and on me is the responsibility." This statement has become very famous, and it is often quoted by people when they speak about Vivekananda's greatness and his Guru Bhakti. Let us move on to some other stories. One day, Vivekananda found the cook of the house he stayed in looking longingly at his hookah. Hookah, you know, the pipe. It was beautifully crafted and very expensive. The Maharaja of Mysore had given this to Vivekananda. So he asked the cook, "Would you like to have this?" Vivekananda repeated this question, but the man was puzzled and was afraid to say yes. So Vivekananda then and there handed it over to him. The man could not believe that Vivekananda was really giving it away to him. But when he got it in his hands, he was joyous and grateful beyond words. Those who heard of the incident saw what renunciation Vivekananda had, for he loved that hookah. It was his only comfort. Throughout his life, Vivekananda used to give away whatever anyone admired in his possession. He would give it away instantly, famously saying, "What you admire is already yours." Remember this. Can you give away things you really like as Vivekananda did? Try. Your heart will expand that way. Another story. Vivekananda used to walk in the evening on the seashore. One day, he saw the wretched and half-starved children of the fishermen working with their mothers waist deep in water. So tears filled his eyes and he cried out, "Oh Lord, why do you create these miserable creatures? I cannot bear the sight of them. Oh, how long, oh Lord, how long?" Seeing his loving heart and genuine feeling for those poor children, his companions were overcome with emotion and they also burst into tears. While walking in the seashore, Vivekananda had a strange experience. For some days he was bothered by some spirits, ghosts. The spirits reported all sorts of views to make his mind uneasy, and later he learned the statements to be untrue. When they had thus annoyed him for some days, one day he faced the spirits boldly. Then they told him of their miserable condition in their spirit bodies and pleaded with him to release them from their spirit state of being. Vivekananda thought over the matter, and one day in the seashore he offered pindam to the spirits. He took a handful of sand as a substitute for rice and grain and offered it, praying with his whole heart that these spirits might find rest. Thereafter, truly, those spirits attained peace and stopped bothering him. Mr. V. Subramania Iyer, accompanied Vivekananda and his disciples on his daily walk to the seashore. One day, Vivekananda asked Mr. Iyer casually, "Well, my boy, can you wrestle?" Iyer said yes. Vivekananda said in fun, "Come, let us have a fight." Mr. Iyer was surprised, but he saw what skill Vivekananda had and he admired his athletic skill and strength of muscle. So Mr. Iyer started calling him Pahalwan Swami or the athlete monk. See, Vivekananda never used harsh words against anyone, but he did not avoid criticism when necessary. For example, a Pandit asked him if there was any harm in giving up Sandhya Vandana, prayers performed in the morning, noon, and evening, because of lack of time. "What?" cried Vivekananda almost ferociously. Those giants of the old, the ancient rishis who never walked but strode the earth, they had time and you have no time? Dear children, never avoid your daily duties in the excuse of lack of time, because excuse is always lame, not valid reason at all. Vivekananda was a forceful speaker, as you know very well, and his words have become truly quotable quotes. You can find numerous books just listing quotations from Vivekananda. Many famous Vivekananda quotations were uttered in Madras itself. Shall we see how a few of those sublime words first came out? Many young men of the university became his devoted supporters. With them, Vivekananda would discuss religion, psychology, science, literature, or history, or whatever. One day, when Vivekananda was in a highly spiritual mood, someone asked him, "Swamiji, why is it that in spite of their Vedantic thought, the Hindus are image worshippers?" Vivekananda, with flashing eyes, turned on the questioner and answered, "Because we have the Himalayas." This is a very famous utterance. Vivekananda meant thereby that spiritually India realized the Vedantic thought that God is one and all else is God's reflection. Yet, surrounded by the divinely beautiful nature, man cannot but fall down and worship. So Vivekananda told, Hindus are image worshippers because Indians have divinely beautiful nature around them, like the Himalayas, grand, serene and sublime. During his short stay in Madras after his return from America, Vivekananda gave public lectures. My Plan of Campaign, The Sages of India, Vedanta in its application to Indian life, and the Future of India. In these lectures, Vivekananda reminded the Indians of both their greatness and their weakness, and urged them to be proud of their past and hopeful for their future. On the third day after his arrival in Madras, Vivekananda was honored in a public meeting on behalf of the people of Madras. Victoria Hall was chosen for the purpose. As the hall was too small to hold the large crowd, the people demanded an open-air gathering. Vivekananda obliged. He came out of the hall and addressed them from the top of a Madras coach. You remember we told this before? He spoke like Sri Krishna standing on the chariot, exhorting the people to give up unmanliness and uphold their ancient heritage. In Madras itself, he said his famous words, "Make your nerves strong. What we want is muscles of iron and nerves of steel. Stand on your feet and be men." He also told them that they must have strong will. Even if the whole world stands against them, they must have the willpower to do what they think is right. They also must have tremendous love and feeling for the people they want to serve. Then only they can work wonders. By such words of inspiration, Vivekananda encouraged the young educated people of Madras. They became his loving Madras boys. He urged them to maintain their enthusiasm and to give him all the help he required to do great things for India. The people of Madras responded to his call and, following his inspiration, did much for the social uplift of the people. Even after more than a century of visiting Madras, Vivekananda is still held in high esteem by the people of Madras, now Chennai, and his inspiration is still working wonders. The concluding mantra: Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat.